Hi, we're ready for part 3 of chapter 3. I know this is dry information and things. We probably will not have a test of it, but in this chapter, I do have several assignments that I do want you to complete. And you've had a couple before. You didn't have one on the last section, but on section 1, you had exercise 15 and 16, and hopefully you finished that. And today you'll have a couple more. But today we're going to talk about the Constitutional Convention, which is really important because it's where things start to come together, where the colonies or the states start to come together and become one. 12 states sent delegates to the meeting in Philadelphia. The idea was to make some changes to our Articles of Confederation, and that's what we were running off of at that time. The Articles of Confederation were way too weak and having too many faults. Remember, they could make laws, they couldn't enforce them. They owed money to different places, and they needed to pay bills and things like that, but they couldn't enforce collecting taxes. So they were really, really weak. So really, they were ineffective. The delegates decided to write a brand new constitution. This became known as the Constitutional Convention. So hence, we're writing the Constitution. Okay? This is what they agreed on. The delegates agreed on the main ideas for the new federal government. And remember, federal is the whole group. State is each state, but federal is all of them together. Our state government's in Iowa, the federal government's in Washington, D.C. Okay? The delegates agreed on the main ideas for the new federal government, agreed it should have 3 branches. And that way no one could get too strong. It needed the power to make laws. It also needed the powers to carry out and judge the laws. It didn't matter. They could make laws and say, no trading between 2 different states, but they had no way to carry out the laws, so they had to have something stronger to carry those laws out. It must have the power to raise money to do its work. Here's the things, though, they could not agree on. I'm going to highlight that word "not" because they could not agree on. Let's go with a pretty blue. They could not agree on how to set up each branch of government. The larger states wanted more votes in Congress than the smaller states. They said, we have more area and stuff. We should have more votes and more power. The smaller states wanted all states to have equal votes. It's like, that's not fair. We all need to have equal votes. Each state had to give up on some points. In the end, the delegates made several compromises, and this is the most, I'm going to highlight that too, because it is the most important word. We have to do it all the time in the world. They had to compromise, and that means giving up and giving in a little bit, but not just letting somebody have their way, but making compromise and coming to an agreement. Compromise is made at the convention, the Great Compromise. How many representatives should each state have in Congress? The compromise they reached was the plan that we have today. The federal government has 2 houses, okay? They're called the Senate and the House of Representatives, okay? It said all states have 2 votes in the Senate. So no matter how many, from the tiniest states to the hugest states, there's only 2 votes. Votes in the House of Representatives are based on the population of the state. So if there was not many people living in one state, they had less representation, or votes, I should say, than a large state with a lot of population. Then the next thing was the 3/5 compromise. Because at this time, there was a lot of slavery going on, and the southern states thought they should get more power because they had more people there, and so they wanted to count the slaves. Okay, so the southern states wanted to count their slave population to get more seats in Congress. The northern states were against counting slaves as citizens, not because they didn't think of them as people, but because they just wanted to. The southern states just wanted to up their amount of people, and that wasn't fair. All states agreed to count each slave as 3/5 of a person instead of as one. The number of representatives was balanced between the North and South. But the South also had to pay for 3/5 of their slaves when federal taxes were placed on all the people. So They were actually paying for the extra push of a vote. So if you had several slaves, you had to pay tax on that. The last was the slave trade compromise. All states agreed that Congress needed the power to make rules on trade, but Southern states were afraid Congress would. Um, let me see what it says. But Southern states were afraid that Congress would end would end the slave trade, because really, slave trade, I think even back then we knew it was not good. It was inhumane. So they were afraid that it was going to end. They were also afraid Congress would tax exports, and they had tobacco as an export and lots of tobacco use back in that time. A lot of cigar smoking and not cigar, excuse me, pipe smoking and things like that. So they wanted to make sure they could get their tobacco out to where it wanted without costing them a lot of money. Tobacco from the southern states was the leading export of the whole country. If Congress taxed exports, that means materials and things that we have made here and sending out. If they would tax those exports, the southern states would have to pay the most in taxes. In the end, the states compromised. Congress would not end the slave trade for at least 20 years. Okay, I have a video. It's an overview of government, and I want you to watch that. And then I have 2 assignments. The first one is exercise 9, and it's a map. It's reading a map, and those are all pretty easy. Okay, so exercise 9, the map below shows the 13 original states at the time of the Constitutional Convention. Use the map to answer the questions, and you'll be able to look at the key has like New England states, middle and southern states, and it talks about who had the most land and things like that. So that one shouldn't be too hard. Here's the harder one. Okay, I want you to try it. I know it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Exercise 10, it is writing a journal entry. It says a journal is a private diary of someone's thoughts and feelings. Imagine you are a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. On the lines below, write a journal entry about one day at the convention. Use the information in your text or look at an encyclopedia or look it up online or other reference books about the convention. Use questions below to help you prepare your entry. And I would just go online and look up about the Constitutional Convention and see how it went. I know things I've heard, it was very, very hot and warm. It was all men stuck in a building that they wanted to get along, but it was very difficult. They had to make compromises. You just kind of put yourself as if you were one of those delegates and you were sitting in there or walking in there and how you felt. Try it, please. Any effort of giving me 3 to 5 sentences, I will give you full credit on it. I'm not asking for a lot, but I do want an effort. And just give me an effort. Show me that you can get online and look at some information and things like that. And even in our book, even when I'm telling you, it was extremely hot. There was a lot of tempers. It said, like, how did the delegates get along? Some of them, get along very well. Others had their own ideas of what each state would be like. The South wanted, more votes than the North and things like that. So come up with 3 to 5 sentences on there. Like I said, I'm not going to be picky. I just want you to try. That's the biggest thing. We have to graduate. And to graduate, we have to have this class. So you've got to get it done. This will probably be Tuesday's assignment. And Tuesday is, let me look at my calendar. I think Tuesday is October, because Friday you don't have to worry about doing anything. But I'll go ahead and put it on tonight for Friday. But you do not have to do this Friday. This will be what we do on Tuesday, October 6th. Wait. Yeah, because this is for Tuesday, Thursday. Yep, on October 6th. So this will be our assignment for October 6th. And we'll go on after that on Thursday about part 4 and the branches of government. Okay, I know it's dry. I know it's kind of tough, but we got to get through it. It's not too bad. We're going through kind of slow. So have a good weekend. Or if you don't open this up until next Tuesday, this isn't going to be too bad. Just get through it the best you can. Thank you, and I will talk to you next time.